Some wounds don't leave any visible scars, and childhood emotional trauma, well, that's one of the most invisible ones out there. But it shapes our adult lives in some really profound ways. So today, we're going to explore what these unseen wounds actually are, how they echo in our relationships, and most importantly, we're going to talk about the path toward healing. Okay, let's dive right in.
I want to start with this idea because it's just so powerful. Picture a family photo, right? You see the people, the smiles, where everyone is standing. But what about the empty spaces, the gaps between people? Emotional neglect is that white space. It's not about what bad things happened, but about what wasn't there. That essential emotional support and validation that should have been.
And that really brings us to a crucial point here. Understanding this kind of trauma isn't just about tallying up the bad things that happened to us. It's also about recognizing the good things that should have happened, but just didn't. So when we talk about childhood trauma, we're really talking about a pretty wide spectrum. On one hand, yeah, it can absolutely be active mistreatment, like someone yelling at you. But it's just as much about the consistent failure of a parent or caregiver to just show up for a child's emotional needs. Both of these can leave some deep, long-lasting effects.
This slide breaks it down so perfectly. Think of emotional abuse as a hit. It's an active emotional punch. It's someone scaring you, insulting you, belittling you. And as a child, you learn to brace for that punch. But emotional neglect, that's the empty space. It's more like forgetting to water a plant. The plant isn't being actively harmed, but it's not getting what it needs to thrive. A child's feelings are ignored, and they learn to survive without that emotional water.
Has anyone ever said this to you? This is such a classic example of what's called gaslighting. It's when a parent denies a child's reality. They might say, "That never happened," or "You're just making that up." And when you hear that over and over, you, as a child, learn to stop trusting your own feelings, your own memories, your own gut. The thing is, these experiences from childhood, they don't just stay in the past. They create these echoes that just reverberate through our adult lives, and they can fundamentally shape how we connect with other people and even how we see ourselves.
So a really common outcome of this is developing what we call insecure attachment styles. For example, if you have an anxious attachment style, you might live with this constant, nagging worry that your partner is about to leave you. You might need a lot of reassurance. On the flip side, someone with an avoidant style tends to keep people at an emotional arm's length. They're terrified that if they get too close, they'll just get hurt, so they avoid true intimacy altogether.
And underneath a lot of these behaviors is this deep, deep-seated belief. See, a child's world revolves around their parents, so they can't really process the idea that their parents are flawed or might be the problem. So what do? They conclude the problem must be them. They internalize all that blame, carrying this core belief that they are somehow broken or just unlovable.
And look, this isn't just some theory. This is actually backed by a lot of research. Study after study has shown a clear, significant link here. The more trauma someone goes through in childhood, the more likely they are to struggle with insecurity in their adult relationships. So if any of this is feeling familiar to you, I just want you to know you are not alone, and there's a very real reason for it. Okay, so let's get into what's happening on a biological level, right? Why do these old feelings feel so intense, so immediate, right here in the present? Well, it has everything to do with how trauma can actually rewire our brain's alarm system.
This little cartoon does a great job of showing what happens. That flashing red part, that's the amygdala. It's our brain's fear center, kind of like an internal smoke detector. Now, if you grew up with constant emotional threats, that smoke detector was working overtime, and it became super, super sensitive. And even long after the danger is gone, that alarm can get stuck in the on position.
And this is why something really small in the present can feel just like a major threat from the past. A simple request from your partner or some constructive feedback from your boss. With that overactive alarm blaring, your brain can perceive that as a dangerous hit. And the automatic response, it's often to either strike back to defend yourself or to hide to try and stay safe.
Okay, so knowing all of this, what on earth can we do about it? Well, the good news is we are not powerless here. There are some really practical, concrete tools we can all use to start calming that internal alarm and navigate conflict in a much healthier way.
First, let's talk about calming your nervous system right in the heat of the moment. Step 1. Just label your emotion. Seriously, just saying to yourself, I am feeling ashamed right now, helps the thinking part of your brain come back online, and it actually soothes that panicked alarm system. Step 2. Step away. If you feel that trigger, physically get up and move to another room. Give yourself some space to breathe and let that emotional wave crest and fall. And step 3, self-validate. Tell yourself, it's okay that I feel this way. This is huge for interrupting that old, familiar cycle of shame.
Now, once you feel a bit calmer, you can communicate more assertively. Step 1. State a clear boundary. A simple firm, what you said is not okay, please stop, can be incredibly powerful. Step 2. Acknowledge that two people can experience the same event differently. Instead of getting into a fight about who's right, you can just say, I hear you, but that wasn't my experience. And step 3, and this is so important, you have the right to pause a conversation. I don't want to talk about that right now is a complete sentence. You don't owe anyone an explanation.
Now, those tools are fantastic for managing the tough moments. But what about the long-term journey? Healing is about so much more than just coping. It's about reclaiming your own story and your own sense of who you are.
So here are some of the key steps on that path. First up is acceptance, truly deeply absorbing the fact that what happened to you was not your fault. Next is this idea of reparenting yourself. This just means learning to talk to yourself with the kindness and compassion you never got as a kid. You can even visualize your adult self comforting your younger self. And this is so hopeful. Remember neuroplasticity. Our brains can literally change. New, safe, positive relationships can actually help rewire those old patterns. And finally, of course, seeking help from a trained therapist can be an absolutely essential step for so many people. So much of this healing journey really comes down to the relationship you have with yourself. It's about doing the courageous work of learning to recognize your feelings, to own them without judging them, to accept them as valid, and to finally, realize the one core truth that emotional neglect tries so hard to erase.
That you matter, your feelings matter, your needs matter, your entire experience matters. This, right here, is the single most important truth there is to reclaim.
I want to leave you with this final thought. Your past, it happened. It's a part of your story, for sure, but it is not a life sentence. Healing really begins the moment you realize you have the power to write the next chapters for yourself, right now.